Brought to you by PrayLatin.com, makers of prayer cards featuring complete English phonetic renderings of Latin pronunciations.
We know that this secularization church program that's been going on for decades has one common linkage to virtually everything today, and that is through the financial system and to the political system. This new orientation in the church, really made in your face with the Synod on Synodality, but going back to Vatican II, again, the new ecclesiology, a new theology for the church involving redefining the church's relationship to humanity, to God, and what its mission in the world is, with all cascading effects afterwards, including new masses and all sorts of other things. One of the things that's happened is certain prelates have felt empowered to get extremely political in violation of church teaching. And I don't mean that they're not supposed to be political, although the church has always frowned upon clerics becoming politicians. Instead, these bishops will have felt empowered to overturn Catholic teaching on things. They promoted the heresy of the seamless garment theology, which puts the most evil social practices on the same level as being unemployed. You know, the sacrifice to Moloch, as I have to call it on this channel, they put that on the same moral plane as large-scale unemployment. Destroying church authority, by the way, because it's obviously nonsensical. No serious person thinks that those things are of the same moral problem. But a lot of this turned into bishops and priests having unholy connections to politicians. And now some people will think I'm talking about with the current president. I don't particularly like how close some priests are in terms of his political operation. That's not what I'm talking about here. But a complicit clergy, for the headline, were Catholic organizations involved in efforts to elect Hilary Clinton? The answer to that is, of course, yes. We have seen how bishops often will endorse political candidates in a kind of oblique way. We saw how the days after the election of President Trump, you had bishops suddenly ramping up their rhetoric on migration. All sorts of things, all sorts of bizarre things, especially made more so when the funding dollars were cut. I want to talk about a new orientation of the church. The new ecclesiology of the church appears to be materialistic. That's what it appears to be. Focused on creating a better world here. And how do you do that? With political activism and a works-based doctrine. Not a classically Catholic understanding of the relationship of works to salvation, which is that works are part of salvation because Jesus told us to do works, so we should probably do what our Lord told us to do, that they're part of the salvation ticket. But you cannot, under any circumstances, work your way to heaven, if they mention heaven at all. On Wednesday, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard spoke to White House reporters on the heels of the latest document drop alleging Obama administration officials misled the public about intelligence surrounding the Great Bear of the East's interference in the 2016 election. Our hosts don't like you mentioning that country by name. Gabbard's appearance coincided with her office's release of a previously classified report that the House Intelligence Committee that was first drafted in 2017 and published in 2020. The report revealed that Hillary Clinton supporters met with U.S. religious organizations offering money in exchange for the support of the Clinton campaign. And this is an excerpt from page 17 of the report. The security services of that country in August had details of secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations, in which the U.S. State Department representatives offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton, quote, significant increases in financing from department funds and the patronage of state, meaning the Secretary of State, in dealing with post-Soviet countries. Given the election of Trump in 2016, Clinton never had the opportunity to deliver on this alleged promise. However, we do know that under the Obama administration, there was a significant increase in federal funding flowing to Catholic non-governmental organizations for migrant-related services, including a 30% increase in 2016 from the previous year. Coincidence? I don't think so. Take a look at this. 2012 was just a weird year for it. Lots of increase there. But then it dropped back down to about normal levels. And it would go up slowly, then bam, big increase. We're talking a 25% increase, or actually that's a 30% increase. And then they kind of hovered down, went a little bit lower under Trump. Remember, under Trump, they kind of went lower, but basically we're still in the same kind of range. And then massive increases under Biden. Boom, look at that. We strongly encourage Director Gabbard to release additional information regarding the specific participants in the secret meetings between Clinton supporters and U.S. religious organizations. There is anecdotal evidence there that the U.S. bishops were working with the Clinton campaign. You'll recall that I reported to you, and I was laughing all the way through it, when the U.S. bishops responded to a new interpretation from the courts about whether or not the religious organizations, churches, could endorse political candidates. The IRS said that now they were reading things as if churches could do that. And the U.S. bishops, to their credit, said we're not going to do that. They didn't need to change anything because they were already doing it. They received money for migration services as their way of, getting a pat on the back for being good partisan allies. They weren't being overt about it. But how many of you heard anti-Trump homilies from your priests or bishops back in 2016 and today? Again, I'm not even the guy's biggest fan. I'm not. Not against him, but I've got my issues, like a lot of people do. Not against the guy. However, the bishop's behavior in this has been nakedly partisan. How many times have I in the last month reported to you about priests and bishops leading protests, talking about retwisting the gospel to fit a weird narrative on migration? They even, James Martin turned the account of Lot and all the rest. They turned the cities destroyed by the Old Testament, by God, into an account of how it was a lack of hospitality to immigrants that would cause God's wrath to be rained down on those cities. It's not new, an argument. It's not a new argument they've made, but suddenly they dusted it off and brought it out, and you heard it repeated everywhere. And they did it because they're politicians first. That's what they've become. So when we talk about Vatican II and the new ecclesiology, the main thrust of the new ecclesiology is we're going to work very hard to create paradise on earth, to make a better world. Jesus warned us, of course, about ignoring those who have a new gospel, because that is a new gospel, but also the poor you will always have with you. That doesn't mean we shouldn't work to alleviate the conditions and sufferings of the poor. Jesus commanded us to do that too. But if you look at the statements of the bishops, it sounds suspiciously like they think they can eliminate poverty. And part of the way they can eliminate poverty around the world is to let anybody who wants to come to the U.S. in. And you understand the political implications of their migration efforts, then you understand why Clinton and then later Biden wanted the bishops on their side. They were working towards a permanent one-party majority. And the way to do it was to bring in as many people as possible and give them government resources that will buy their loyalty. Cynical sounding? Absolutely. They've been very clear that that's what they were doing. That's the new ecclesiology. That's why whenever you hear anybody in a position of authority in the church, no matter their office, start waxing eloquently about our duties and how they're messengers of hope and things, be wary. I'm curious what people think about all this, so let me know in the comments. Please pray. Start thinking towards Advent. Advent's not that far away. There will be, before then, there will be the fall ember days, but and the fall rogation days, seasons of penance and fasting. Think about doing acts of penance and fasting to help enlighten the heart and mind of the Pope and of the cardinals he's going to surround himself with. We're going to hear about that in a month, maybe less. That they can address these problems and figure out what to do. It's going to take divine intervention of some kind to fix this problem. And that's the thing. I'll leave you on this note of hope. Third secret of Fatima, according to things Sister Lucia allowed to be, that she said about it before the Vatican silenced her in the 50s, by the way, was that it would be divine intervention that would solve the problem. I'll leave you with that. God will not allow his church to be destroyed. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.